Hey folks, hey, I'm putting a challenge out there to anybody that disagrees on me. Prove me wrong. Prove it to me. Don't spout off at a paragraph long temper tantrum about how much of an idiot I am when it can't be proven that I'm not wrong. You can't even say anything about it. It's just a little challenge. I don't mean to preach to anybody, but cognitive dissonance. When you learn something that disagrees with some other things that you're gonna, there's a conflict of interest there. You shut down. You have no reason to even believe what you're believing except for you don't want to be wrong. Look into it. All right, with that, thanks. Hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about how primal, not only people but every animal really is, but including people. We like to think that we're super special, and I'm not saying that we're not. We obviously came out with thumbs and can stand up and use a computer, and that's a bonus to me. But how primal we are, and this really helps in noticing the tells, and noticing when falling into more than a bad day, or you could recognize in other people. Maybe it'll help us out. It'll kind of help explain our humanity's evolution and those type of things. But especially in mammals, all mammals, they have these, they've been tested, and in every single vertebrae that has been tested, they find that they have these 7 traits that are all affected by electrical responses, by frequency, by energy, by the sun, and I mean, this directly affects them. And all mammals, they carry these traits of like fear, lust, care. We call that love, panic, grief, play, rage, seeking. What was the last one? And those are, those are primal number one, rewards and punishes. I mean, this is before the emotional memory and learning. We've all seen somebody get the crazy eyes, and it's just everything gets tunnel visioned, and you might not even remember what he or she did, and or not even know really what happened. But when you snap into that, you're going into this primal state where your body is taking over, and it's all on responses. You're not in control anymore for the safety of your being. Here's one that really struck home with me. When I found this out, it was big. But let's say the people, the male is 15% bigger than the female. The female obviously carries the child, and helps a little bit more in the development, but it's 15%. And when you look at a penguin, they're even. They share. The dad watched the egg for months. But then you go over to like a seal, or a walrus, or an elephant seal, a gorilla. That's a good one. But they're gonna be 3-4 times as big, because it's kind of like a they don't really spend any time having in the development of the kids. They kind of just use their seed and pass it on. And what happens is that going back into primal days, for us, obviously we don't do this anymore, but it's like a certain amount of energy is used per species, and a certain amount is used into developing the kid. And my education's in relationship psychology for sexualities, and when you look at stuff like the dominance and submissive spectrum, um, it women will actually find a dominant male more attractive during ovulation, and this ties right back in here where we went back to fighting and all this, and the woman finds that more attractive during ovulation, because the chance of growing or her bloodline passing on is greater. If we didn't have these desires and we didn't have these things, in all animals, if they didn't go through this mating process, we would actually just become extinct, because we wouldn't seek for better things, we wouldn't strive to do better, so we would settle for less, and settling for less would ultimately just piddle us off. The way that all this extra testosterone and these mating rituals where the weak ones do not get the mate is what makes a strong breed or a species. If you look at the testosterone or the ball size, I'm just gonna of the male, you can find out how monogamous that species is. And this goes again across all species. You look at chimps, they have 4 times bigger balls than a human, and it's because they're little hoe balls, and they're going around and they're trying to out squirt the person next to them, and so there's competition, and they're trying to quantity over quality there, where humans have a fourth the size. We're not necessarily meant to be monogamous. I know it says it biblically. It says, and not adultery, but it doesn't say. I don't want to get into that, but and then you look at, like, let's say gorillas, or nobody messes with a gorilla's woman, and that's kind of like, again, the harem thing where he kind of takes his pick, and he uses all the testosterone, and winner gets all, and gorillas actually have half the size that people do by in respects to their size. But then you look at fish or something like that, where they just run around and during mating season and just start squirting it everywhere, and they can have huge reproductive systems. Now, going back to the desires of the dominance and the submissive kind of spectrum, this is going to tie into a lot, and this was actually the reason I chose this career path when I went to school. Is there's so many people that are they don't really understand, or they don't talk about their desires and what they want, and they want to, society's got us taught that sex isn't important, but I can pretty much guarantee you it's number one reason for divorce or not getting along in a relationship. And some of y'all might relate to this. Is so there's things that you seek and you need, and some of them are not talked about, and this is actually why I think online dating is amazing, because you can throw out there what you want and what your desires are, and it's not inside your friend circle, and it's not going to go back and bite you in the butt if you got a loudmouth partner or friend, and it's more of a younger thing for people to be shy with that. But if let's say a guy is too nice. We all see, the guy that just ends up being like, he always hangs out with the hot chicks, but he ends up just being their friend always, and he's like real sweet and a little metro, and if he doesn't have that dominance, again, she's going to be seeking for it when she goes to ovulate. She's going to find that naturally more attractive because it's a better chance to carry the bloodline on. But if you try to go through, let's say you go, just force the relationship, and it's not what your body, your primal instincts are actually seeking. It's going to be just like an addict that will pick a fight for no reason and just to get away, especially during ovulation. And what it is she's seeking something specific, and your frequency that's leaving your body is not lining up with what she needs or wants. Imagine it like she's got these, in her heart, she's got all this like code, and that code needs to line up as much as possible with your code, or there's going to be issues. Of course, you could be the best friend in the world, and you could be attractive, or you can be a lot of things, but if you're not what she's seeking, people go through entire marriages and just aren't really all the way happy and can't figure it out. It's like they're 80% there all the time. They just can't, or they try to fake it till they can make it, and it's not working. I tell anybody that I've talked to about, as far as a relationship's concerned, to be as open as possible. I think that these hard questions should be asked first, because let's say you go to have some dates with somebody, and some of this stuff doesn't come up for a month or two, or maybe even not down the road, depending on how open you are, and so let's say if those are a part of you. Let's say that you were a big macho dude and you're submissive. You know what? Who cares? Find another way to attract or catch one of them, because if you're a woman and you're more dominant, because if you seek, let's say you go on a couple dates, and now you have an emotional tie to your partner, and so you're going to start to make exceptions, and this could be even about religion or something like that, where it's just going to cause stress down the road. If you'd ask those questions first before there's this emotional bond, then you're not going to make those exceptions. Don't make them on looks or your first thought or anything like that. Don't do it, because life's like a road trip, and it's not about the destination, it's about the trip. But if I'm going to Florida and you're going to New York, and we're leaving out of Seattle, we're gonna both just end up pissed off and out of gas in Kansas somewhere, and it was all because we weren't open to begin with. If we had just worked it out and knew that we were gonna just be road tripping it for a little while, then it's not such a big deal, because we were honest about it. Now, and how many times do we see, a relationship get drug on and on, and this is actually why, I took this route, because I went back to school a second time, and this is, I remembered having somebody tell me this, and I was like, oh, that won't be me. I was like 21 when I heard it, and she tells me this. She goes, y'all been together for like 3 years. This is me and my girlfriend, and you're gonna try to work it out, because you've been together for 3 years, and that's a long time. And y'all care a lot about each other, but you can't stop fighting and whatever. And so as time went on, you're going to get back together, and it's just not going to be great, and you're going to pretty soon y'all are going to be fighting again, and it's going to be 4 or 5 years y'all been together, and that's a long time, and now you have a place together, or some cars, you're invested, you might even be married, and so man, you've been together for 4 or 5 years, so I mean, you've been together this long, you got all that invested, you can't just throw it away, you got to keep trying. And she told me, she goes, pretty soon you're going to waste 10 years, and you're going to hate each other, and you're going to both drag each other down. And sure enough, 9.5 years in, we called it quits. And it was together for the wrong reasons. Man, she was hot, and she was, we had fun, but man, that 1% was there. We weren't all on board. And there's so many tells, there's so many things. I encourage everybody to make this primal list. I mean, it's important. You have values for a reason, and you say you're not gonna step outside of that, and then we all do, and then we all live content, or not that happy. We're dating is, who cares if it's online, if you haven't done it already, or if it's what it is it's a big filter market that you can throw out there what's important to you real quick, and you can filter through and find people that are seeking the same thing that you are, because although we're all the same and primal and humans, and there's just like you walk in a room and you either like somebody or don't, or there's two reasons that happens. Either one, you walk in and your subconscious profiles them, everything from the way they walk, talk, dress, act, everything. Every single person you've ever met in your life, it's cross-referencing them. If they're shady, if they're something. I mean, how were these people in the past that you are comparing them to treated you or acted? And then your other one is that emotional frequency. Our hearts send off this frequency. Our hearts tell our brain what emotion we're in, what mood, and our brain reacts mechanically to it. And here's the thing. So it's just gonna go off, one of these 7 primal, emotions, and then we have there's subcategories, and you can break it down a whole lot further than that. I think China had a ton of them, and mostly for most people, we probably can name about 25 emotions, 30 emotions, and everything else will just kind of fit in one of those categories. You have like a little kid, and he'll say, I'm happy, and he might be excited, or he might be nervous, or who knows, and he might tie nervous into scared, but he just doesn't fit them all together. But it doesn't mean that you can't be 20% happy, 10% nervous, you could be a lot of things, and so it gets complex real quick. But as far as knowing what you want, and this mindset that you're going to be in, and it's electrically and magnetically influenced completely. We look at the time of the month, where the moon is, these cycles that it really does have a higher rate of crime or crazy people on a full moon. It really does. When we go through these astronomical alignments, it really has an effect on people. The zodiac really are true, because during these prenatal and these certain times that are very important in the development of children, there is an effect that's going to influence directly the rest of their development. If you are growing up shy, how many chances are you missing because you didn't stick your hand up and get on out there? And then, so how many times did you mess up to learn to do better later on? Or, I mean, there's so many variables. And being aware of them, and understanding that there's some things that just can't be fixed. There's just, I have a ton of friends now that I figured this all out. I have a ton of friends that I've kept because I didn't try to force a relationship with somebody and end up hating each other in 6 months. I don't even think this is the best way in the world, but I would try to piss somebody off in the first 30 minutes, because if it made them too upset, they're going to get mad at me anyway in the first 3 weeks. And it saves us both 6 months, even, because it just wasn't going to work. And, typically going back into time because of the male fighting for the rights and that thing, they have been more dominant. And I'm going to throw a guess out there. And the way society is with, and it's going to be frequency and those things, we're becoming more moon dominant. We've got the Nibiru talk going out. Our poles kind of change. A lot of this is polarity. And the way that the mindset can be controlled by astronomy and going to these events. If you look back in history, we're on these crazy cycles and we just don't understand them. We hear this talk about, just real quick and I'll jump back in this. We hear this talk about the 2012, and I'm doing some research right now on the qubit and wavelengths and those things. But 2012 is how our calendar lined up time. Well, the ancients, they went off the solar cycles, and I don't know if all of y'all know, but the red light and yellow, it spins one way. The blue-green side of the spectrum on the other side of white will spin the other way. And that's going to be your gods in the religions. You're going to go from Ra or Horus or to Isis and Set. And it's not that they're negative and just green goblins. They're just it's the reverse spin. It's the unwinding. It does different things to our brains, and so we go through these cycles. Those are actual, dualities in the sky. It's not going to be a giant apocalypse. It's going to wipe us out. It's going to be time. It's dragging our time. Your time, as you're standing here in your body, is influenced by the world, yes, but you also have your own magnetic field. And the spin change as we go through these events is going to change the atomic structure of the atoms around you. It's going to drag either quickly past you if you shine a red light on you, or a yellow light. The red light would be further away from what we would perceive as white light, so it would drag it more towards that that forward breaking radiation, it would be more destructive, where the yellow would be closer to white and it would slow our time perceivably. Well, that's how time goes too. If you look, we're off every year on time. We just use a clock. Time's not something that's flat. It's not smooth. It's not. Get a telescope and look in the sky and you'll go, wow, yeah, what's going on? It's kind of jittery up there. Yeah, because time isn't, it comes in bursts, and we just use the second because it's smoothed out, and we can all be on the same time that way, or else, it'd be way worse than time zones. We would be all on our own minutes and all sorts of things all over the place. But so time is going to go forward and backwards, basically. And I'm not so sure that you're going to see people back, walking in reverse or anything like that, but the atomic clocks on the elements around us are going to be either pushed faster or slowed down. The universe is not accelerating and speeding like a faster miles per hour, by itself. It's what's happening is, as these frequencies on the planet, more cell phone towers, and more chaotic things, and we got more people, and all this stuff is happening. What's happening is it's cluttering our planet's frequency so that it's becoming more chaotic and more chaotic. If you look at the kids and the people and our grandfathers, I've said this before, they have they took pride in their work, and they had this craftsmanship that we don't have, and we went faster and faster and faster, and now the kids are so chaotic with this instant gratification that they can tell you 9,000 things, but they can't do any of them. They can't focus. They're getting drugged through time, and it's not the same. The frequencies, they affect you greatly. I mean, the 60s, it didn't just have a bunch of people that wanted to party just for the hell of it. The frequency changed and brought the drugs. War in the from the teens to all the way to 45, 46. Those wars were a mentality. That was 33 years, and then you look for the next 30 years or whatever, and we go into a space age, and we accelerated real quick. Then we went to a computer age, the dot-coms and all that, and now we're in a robotics age. And we need to slow down and re-smell those roses and realize what's happening, because we are primal, and history does repeat itself down to the day. On these cycles, there's smaller cycles, there's bigger cycles, there's extremely long cycles, and it affects the way we think, which drives the world. The Bible, it's pretty easy to name some events. If they can't name an exact time, nobody could, because our time is irrelevant to us and irrelevant to what we cause. I'm really certain that the electromagnetic chaos that's all over the planet, if we had more sacred geometry to chop this up smooth, if we had these things, sacred geometry has changed my life with the way I think. It's ridiculous. I have a cousin who was frustrated at home, and everything was going bad, and she came over in a matter of we had a few talks, and the geometry, and all of a sudden her entire outlook on the planet changed, like boom, overnight, because of the frequency different, because of those shapes. Pyramid's number one shape to chop up and bend and move the electromagnetic spectrum. There's so much more to what reality is, and this frequency is for it. Just look into it. Go a little bit with the old Buddha gravity. Get your chi going and help the person next to you and put on a good mood, because that frequency, not only is it all in the air, but it's released by your body. And if you have this, if for every action there's an equal but opposite reaction, well, if you're thinking terrible things or you're pissed off, you've all walked in a room and been like, man, somebody's mad in here, and they don't even have to say anything, but it's because that frequency, it goes out and your body can read it. And just because we don't know how to put it to words yet, that doesn't mean that it's not felt. And so if you're sending out a negative frequency because you wanted to pass that one driver on the way to work and get there 4 seconds earlier, and you didn't get to, and he's such an a-hole, and blah, 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 don't let it ruin your day. Because when you send out a negative frequency, the universe is going to bounce one right back at you, because that's the inverse. So when you send a positive motion, or you send positiveness out there, you're going to get the positive back. We've all slowed down, and I mean, just if you haven't, try it. Slow down, open the door for people. When I used to do sales and manage some sales, I used to have people say 5 things that you wouldn't normally say, just 5. nice to somebody that you wouldn't normally said it to. And you know, I had people's coming in with afros and people calling it nice. You know, man, I love your hair today, and they're like, yeah, right. But you know what? It lightened up everybody, and you know, it only took a few days, and it was like a whole different room of people. You know, that mentality is positive. You know, so we're in this chaotic state where we're not paying attention. We don't even realize what's going on around us. We care about ourselves and ourselves only. Well, let's slow down. I challenge y'all to pay attention to your mindset and watch how attitudes change. Walk in the other person's shoes and imagine how they would feel, what kind of day or week they're having. I encourage it, but there's gonna be this mindset, and it's going to change drastically. I'm watching it happen, and the more you're aware of the world around you and what's going on, the more obvious it's going to be. You know, be positive. Revelations is going to be about negative things. It's going to be about a mindset. If you think of this, think of biblically, okay? And tie Jesus in. He's the Son, okay? And when he comes back in Revelations, but think of this mindset. You have Jesus in Revelations going, you're doing a great job, but you need to hate your neighbors a little more. You need to, and they're all negative things that he's saying. And this is supposed to be your love, Jesus. And the reason that he is switched around and he is backwards to what we're knowing him as is because that spin is in reverse. Just like a motor. Any motor that you would see, or you know, you're generating electricity by running magnets past copper. It doesn't generate the energy till it continues to move. That's why he died for 3 days before he came back, and then he was opposite. It's going to be the duality, the spin difference in the sun, the Star of David versus Goliath. You know, the Apollo versus Apollyon. It's the opposites they attract. Even the way that he was dressed is exactly like holmium. The colors are the same. It matches the beetle, the duck, all of it. It's going to be a mindset. It's going to be backwards from normal. It already started. That's why we're in this chaotic state that we're in. We got the greed, it's amplifying. We have the people up top just crushing us in the ground, and then they want to keep this technology gap and barrier, and they're trying to keep a harmonic planet, because as soon as everybody finds out, it's going to be a riot. We already know it. Nobody spent trillions of hours on religion in ancient history for it to all line up around the world by people that are smarter than us with bigger brains for them to just not be important. I'm going to tell you, we're on a 411 year cycle. The last one was Johannes Kepler. The reason we were in the Dark Ages is because everything was spinning the other way. It's why we have a plague every time, because when the Arcadian beat stops, our immune system stops, and it triggers us into that. Gotta pay attention. It's laid out there so many times. Ask why. Don't settle for it doesn't line up, it doesn't work, but I'm gonna stick with that story anyway. That is ridiculous. Alright, well, hey, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate y'all for being out here and listening to today. Please, positive attitude. It's contagious. It really is. Alright, thanks.